it's a privilege for me to be interviewing Lord Noon once again. Lord Noon has been affectionately called the Curry King for the United Kingdom. He's a businessman, entrepreneur, and a philanthropist. He's also currently the Chancellor of the University of East London. He began work at the age of 17 in Mumbai and created Noon Foods UK, which by 2005, would you believe, was serving 1.5 million curries a week. Around that time, Lord Noon decided to exit the business as his full-time role, and he sold the company eventually to Kerry Foods, which is an Irish conglomerate. Some of you might have heard of them. Lord Noon has written extensively about his passage from India to the UK, his trials and tribulations, and his motivation and success. You need to worry about being too close to Mumbai. He also attracts a lot of adversity in his life. And I'm going to be asking him about some of that. In particular, fire destroyed his factory in 1994. And more recently, in 2008, he was at the Taj Hotel when the Mumbai terrorist attack took place. And by a stroke of luck, I was supposed to be there that year with him, and I changed my travel plans. So I'm the safer person to be sticking out to. As Harris also mentioned, Lord Noon received his MBE in 1996. He was knighted in 2002 and joined the House of Lords in January 2011, actually. I've interviewed Lord Noon before, so it's a little bit easier for me to do this, which is why Harris got me to do it. I also count Lord Noon as both a friend, a mentor, and a business partner. So it's somebody I have extreme recognition for and a lot of admiration for as well. So I'm going to kick off by asking Lord Noon a very simple question to warm him up a little bit. He's a man who, if you've heard him before, is not afraid to make his opinions known. So since we're here with a lot of young students as well, I thought the first question to ask him would be, what motivated him to choose business as his career?
Let me get rid of this Curry King business first. Yes, I was actually coined as a Curry King because I'm guilty of making chicken tikka masala our national dish. And yes, what motivated me? In my case, you'll be surprised to know that poverty motivated me. Because when my father died, I was 9 years old, and my mother had become widowed twice. My younger sister, the youngest sister, and baby in the arm, and we were trapped in the poverty. And at that point, I was 9 years old, but I had somehow I knew that I got to do something to get my family out of this mess. And of course, we had a confectionery shop, 2 shops there, and it was in a great debt. Great debt, because in those days there were no, health insurance or anything. So prior to my father's death, 7 months prior to my father's death, my eldest brother died. And therefore, it was in a complete mess. So I worked hard. I used to go to school at the age of, I'm referring now, 12 years old, and come in the afternoon from school and clean the shop. And then I was graduated to serve a customer. And then I was graduated to take the money on the till. And that's how I built but I had a vision for that business of mine. And I built that business. But I'll give you a small example. That business of ours was also, now of course it's known as Royal Sweets, and it's 103 years old. At that point of time, it was not Royal Sweets. It was my father's name. Now in India, it has to be secular name also should be there. So I changed the name. I removed one day my father's name from the shop, and my mother was furious. And she was Persian and she had a heavy hand, so be careful to go near her. So she was very, very furious. And how dare you do that? I said, listen, there is a definite reason. Now I was matured and I could answer. When you have a difference of opinion with your father or mother or leader, that doesn't mean that you respect them less. That's my motive. So don't be afraid to confront your mother or father. If you are right, because you love them. You don't love them less. Anyway, so I explained to my mother, and I tell you, I never looked back. And I coined the word Royal Sweets. And I brought it here in 1971 here, and we started the company here with the same name. So my motivation was poverty. I had to get out of this mess.
Lord Noon, I've got one episode which I wanted you to relay from your autobiography. If you haven't read it, this is a plug for Lord Noon. It's called Noon with a View. It's a great read, actually. Noon Bhai, the way you came to know about your father passing away, and that little story, I think for some of the young people here will be very interesting.
As I said, I was 8-9 years old, and I was sitting in my classroom in the school. And in those days, we were in a Muslim society. So there was a town crier who would go to every building and announce that so and so is dead. And I heard my father's name. I was absolutely stunned. I couldn't get up and I had no courage to go to the teacher that, listen, my father has died and I've got to run now. But anyway, the school was finished and I ran and I saw that my father was already dead. So that was a traumatic incident which I never forgot. But the more important thing is...
And you're quite young at that stage.
I was 9 years old, 8.5 years old. But I saw my father's body there. And of course, my elder sister, my mother they were completely uncontrollable. So something occurred to me, Shadi, you won't believe this. And I distinctly remember those words. So I told my mother at that age that, Mom, don't cry. When I grow up, I'll take care of everything. It was just something came in my mind. So
from adversity, as they say, sometimes the best ideas and courage springs out. Nunda, I'd like to take you on a little bit forward into the UK and your landing in the UK and looking at business here. I know a little bit more about your business. Most of the people in the audience here don't. What was the first challenge you overcame as far as the UK was concerned? So you come from Mumbai, you leave a society you know, you have a business there, you're in an industry you understand in Mumbai, and then you suddenly, as a young man, leave everyone, come here. How did you find that first
Actually, let me go a little bit back. And I came first time in 1966, when the day I arrived here, the same day, England had won the World Cup from Germany. So, and at that point of time, I had no reason to believe that I would come here and put up industry or do any business. But I fell in love with the country. I liked the softness, I liked the culture. And I thought this is something different. Never heard the horn. Where in Bombay, cars are driven only on horn and brakes. So I said, this is a great country. Sorry, I'm not impressing you guys. So I felt that this is the country, I should look at it. So I went back, and my mother was there, and she was, of course, she had seen my entrepreneurship there, because I had built the business there. And in 1969-70, I had the courage to tell her that I would be going to London and I would like to see the business, do some business there. So she quietly took me to her room, although my other brothers and sisters were sitting there. She told me one thing: you will go there, but you will never work for anyone. If necessary, you will take the few ties on your hands, sell it in the corner of the street, but you should not work for anyone. Thank God, that was something she planted in my mind, and I never worked for anyone. I worked for Shabir. So,
quite the converse, yeah.
So, and when I came here, of course, with the 50 pounds in my pocket, it was tough in those days. Early 70s was a tough time, in a sense that, the complete business environment was different. And I also was caught up in that 3 days a week during, union problem. But I had a friend of mine who actually was my neighbor in India. And there, of course, there are 5 brothers, but their father was alive, and we were neighbors. So every morning, I would go and have a cup of coffee with him, and he would talk about England, and I would talk about Bombay, and he thought that I got some fire in my belly, and he said, whenever you want to come to England, probably I may be able to help you to do the business. So I took up that challenge. And I asked him to listen, I'm not only entrepreneur, but I'm also technocrat. I can create business. So he trusted me, gave me about a couple of £100,000 in those days. And we started Royal Sweets business here, put up a small factory, and it grew and grew and grew. And then, of course, suddenly, who comes to my aid was Dada Amin, Field Marshal Dada Amin of Uganda. He threw some of the lots out from there. From Uganda. So our Indian community grew here, so did my business. It was just a stroke of luck. I was at the right place at the right time. I'm not that clever. Don't accept these views. So sometimes in life, of course, you must have integrity, values. You should know your business. If you are manufacturing, if you are a manufacturer, then you must know which is the market. And today in this world now, I mean, we do, for example, food business. Now in food business, we do about 500,000 meals a day, and there are many companies, bigger companies. But we have to make sure that it is value for money. So you buy your material cleverly from all over the world and manufacture it. Make sure that your cost is low, and therefore then only you can succeed. But if you are, and the marketing is very important. Even if you are selling gold at the price of silver, but if you don't know your market, nobody's going to buy it.
As ever, Lodman's been very humble. His business legacy of creating a profitable business from selling, as we said, ready-made curries to a market which wasn't really prepared for it. So he actually created the market as well. And that leads me to my next sort of question and area. There's a lot of young people, there's budding entrepreneurs here today. Where does courage come from to start something that nobody else has done before? It's easier to copy something that has already been done, but you went and started to sell frozen meals and ready-made meals where nobody had done that, especially not in the volume that you consider.
The curries in those days available was pathetic. Million miles away from the authenticity to begin with. Badly packaged. So I went to America. Listen, I'm not that clever. You see, I give an example that, sometimes your friend will go to the casino and win £2,000 and he'll come and brag about it. But he wouldn't tell you how many times he has lost. I'll tell you how many times I have lost. I went to America and put up the same business. That's where I learned technology, actually. To manufacture food in a bulk without diluting the traditional value of the food. That's what I learned in America. And I had a very nice American gentleman, by sheer coincidence I met him, and he was an advisor to the many food industries there, and he took me under his wing, and he taught me, and he gave me the how do we approach. So I put up a very nice factory, and if you heard about Tata's, I was a partner with Tata's. We were 50-50 partnership in that business, and Mr. J.R.D. Tata, the doyen of Tata, he had visited the factory of mine also. But you see, our concept was wrong. Our factory was fantastic. What we did was, instead of going to the supermarket like we did here, we started opening our own restaurants. Now, opening a restaurant in America is a very expensive and very risky business. And we opened about 11 restaurants, and none of the restaurants worked. So I took a quick decision. I said, I haven't got deep pockets, Tata's have. So I surrendered my share for $1. I had lost about $2.5 million in those days. I'm talking 79, 80, 81. I said, I can't continue this. You want to continue, you continue. They were pumping the money, but eventually they also lost it, and after 3 years they packed up. But I came here, back to my Royal Suite business, which I had left it with my managers, and it was working all right. But in those days, Tata's had bought, I had helped them to buy some hotels there. 4 hotels in Washington, one very large 720 rooms hotel in New York. And I was a vice president. They were looking after me very well. And almost by sheer chance, I almost became a corporate man. And then one night I remembered my mother's word. What am I doing? And they were looking after me very well. I'm not bragging, but in those days Concorde was flying. I had a carte blanche. I used to come by Concorde, go by Concorde. My chairman, Mr. Kerkar, had given me an incredible apartment of his daughter who had come there to study. He had bought it and she left, and the apartment was given. Everything was there. But one day, on 28th of September 1983, I remember the date, 28th September, because my eldest daughter's birthday it was. I marched into his office and I said, I'm going to come back to them. And he was absolutely devastated. So what have I done? You want more pay? I said, I don't want the damn pay. I want to be an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm going to, oh, but you have a small Royal Suite business here. Here is a hotel. See this hotel, millions of pounds we have spent. And I'd helped them to arrange those funds. And also, one hotel, Shabir, you won't believe it, the 27-story building, 720 rooms, a hotel, I bought it. He had not even seen it. Chairman had not been out. When I told him on telephone that you must come down, come here and see it, he said, I respect your judgment, just go ahead. And
that's the faith, the faith they had in you.
Yes. Yeah. So, but he was looking after, I was very well paid, and everything was fine, lots of perks. But again, see, my main thing was entrepreneur. I came back here, picked up the pieces, what I had left of my company here, and built that. Then from confectionery, I went to aviation industry, aviation food. I had never done it. Surprisingly, in those days, British Airways were looking for Indian food for their clientele in the aircraft. Surprisingly, I came to know about it. I went there and they asked me a question. Have you done this business? I said, no. Have you ever done this business? I said, no. Have you thought about it? I said, no. But I can do it. Trust me, give me 6 months. And today, we have a very good relationship. It's almost about 35 years now. But you see, the question here is, you must believe in your own self. And I'm addressing the budding entrepreneurs. There are people who are, I can see Mr. Virji here, the next candidate to come into House of Lords.
Hiding at the back.
Hiding at the back, you should be here, your name is here. Anyway, so there are entrepreneurs here, but budding entrepreneurs, I would just say that believe in your own self. Take advice of all the consultants you like, but do what this man tells you, your inner heart tells you.
Is that where the courage comes from, the inner self?
Inner self. Because I'm jokingly, I said, and there are some consultants, I'm sure, I always say jokingly, I said, if the consultants were that good, why can't they start their own business?
Said in the House of Morton Rose, there you go. Don't take it personally, please. Nuba, I have to ask you about the fire. Okay,
yes.
We all heard a lot about the fire and how you dealt with that catastrophe.
Let me take you slightly backward. Noon Products started in 89, and I had a beautiful factory because I learned my technology in America. Beautiful factory. So some of my friends, well-meaning friends, told me that why don't you just produce it, buy half a dozen vans, hire a driver, come salesman, and supply to all the corner shops. And you are in business. I said, that's exactly what I'm not going to do. Because I'm going to go to the largest distributor of frozen food company. And then I found out that it was Bird's Eye, Unilever. I went there half a dozen times, I was thrown out, nobody was prepared to listen to me. Eventually, after lots of persuasion, now persuasion is very important, don't give up. Never allow that thing to come in your mind. If you have some product and if you have some ideas. So I went back and I remember, I'll never forget a man's name, Brian Menzer, who was the marketing director. And I told him, I said, Brian, who's your boss? Let me go into him and show my product, because I know that you are also making curries. And then, remember sickly bags? You to squeeze it in your saucepan. And that sort of, and it was full of stars and again million miles away from authenticity. I showed them and they loved it. They loved it anyway. They tied up all loose ends and we were in business. Now, my younger brother, who was my deputy, we both went to collect the order. Order form was given to us in a sealed envelope by the secretary, Brian Menzer, and we opened it outside, and I found very many zeros. I told my brother, Akbar, I think there is something wrong here. We went back again. We told the secretary, I think, check it out, I think there's some typographical error. She looked straight into my eyes. We don't make such typographical error. This is the order of 2.7 million pounds. First order. And that was wow. And when we came to the plant, my brother was driving, he was driving so fast, I said, the way you are driving, we'll never reach to the plant. Anyway, I never looked back. And they supported me for 3 years for frozen food. And then same year, it was 89, surprisingly I got a call from Sainsbury's. And in those days, deputy chairman was David Sainsbury, who was also now Lord Sainsbury. And his entire team was there in their boardroom. And he asked me, I must tell you this. I would never say to anyone, never apply my thinking. I got away, you may not. David asked me, oh, what do you think about my food in curry in my shop, in my stores? I said, pathetic, rubbish, insipid. My God, I said, my production director Ashok was with me, he was kicking me. What you are doing? I said, I brought it, have a look. We heated up the microwaves, they loved it. Now Sainsbury himself, why I am taking the liberty of telling you this, or rather courage to tell you this, he himself tells this story. Whenever he goes there, this chap came to my office and he's telling me my food is rubbish. He's my prospective supplier. But I got away with it. Anyway, so they also came, and the Waitrose and of course Morrison's and everybody. And the idea was a serious note. I was at the right place at the right time, but I took the opportunity. Sometimes what happens, you don't take the opportunity walks by. And then you oh, but I should have bought this building, it was available so cheap. He has bought many buildings at the right time. And I'm his partner, thank God for that. So the opportunities are there, but you have to grab it. Again, I cannot emphasize enough about the integrity. Integrity and risk.
You have the integrity point I wanted to catch you on because of the fire.
Yes.
And how you reacted, because this is for every budding entrepreneur in the room. We all will hit, or we'll all slip on a banana skin somewhere along the way. This one was a bit more than a banana skin uphill.
On 24th of November 1994, I had a beautiful, flourishing business. In those days, also I had about 250 people working with me. And the factory was about 50,000 square feet. And one evening, on 24th of November, it caught fire in 1994. I was actually driving home and came back, and first thing I asked whether anyone is hurt. But all my workers were still in their protective clothes, the garb, the white coats, and they were all out, and of course they were distraught and everything. Next morning, it was 6 o'clock in the evening, and up to 3, 4 o'clock I was there, but next morning, 8 o'clock, I came back, and my solicitor, our great Robinson David, solicitor, my accountant, my auditors, they came with a paper that now that you don't have a business, you must give this notice to everyone. So you don't pay them. 250 people. Sometimes my spirituality surfaced, and I said, I'm not going to do that. So I told my accountant, forget this letter, you pay them. Whatever their pay is, of course, overtime should not be considered because there is nothing, no production is there. You pay them in their account until we don't have money. Then you come to me and say that I don't have money to pay. And we pay it. Again, Allah's, by God's grace, I was able to, I'm just cutting it short because it's a long story, I was able to start my production, 40% production, in less than 10 weeks' time. And these are the Sainsbury's words. No one has come back to the business after the fire, because fire is a common phenomena, common enemy of the food manufacturer. And particularly in those days, because fire suppression was not that sophisticated. Now it is. So, 10 weeks' time, I converted my Royal Sweets, one of the factories, into noon products and started 40%. Then, suddenly I got a call from a gentleman called Peter Barr. He was a chairman of Hazelwood. They have 16 factories all over Europe. He had a few factories here. And so he said, listen, I know you had a fire, but my factory is available to you because I am also supplier to Sainsbury's and Waitrose. We have common customers. I heard about your fire. He said, you can bring your people and start producing in our factory in Wrexham, in Wales, from 6 to 6 in the morning. So that accommodation was available to me. So we hired a house in that village and started producing there. So about 80% production it was within about 4 months' time. And then again, somebody walked in, there is a factory available, stone throw from your burned down factory. It was a metal box factory. Just see what happens in life. So you see the luck. And it was a much bigger premises. I did not know anyone in the metal box in London, but I knew the regional director, one who was in Singapore, a great friend of mine, Ian Carmichael. I rang him up and I said, this is what has happened. I don't want you to just give my reference, character reference, my business reference. And in 45 minutes, I went there. In 45 minutes, I signed the deal. I took over the lease. Now, the challenge was to build the factory, 55,000 square feet. Fire was in November. Factory was given to me by Metal Box in March. Then I got a company in Derby, a British company. The speciality was to build the food factories. I went to him and I said, I want the factory in 5 months' time. Impossible, I can give you in November. I said, no, I want to open in August. And anything you bring forward, any week I'll give you £25,000 bonus. And they did 3 weeks, they brought it forward. And I used to go with I used to go to the factory where what we did was, all the workers we sent from the Midland, actually they lived there. I created an infrastructure there. And I would go with them every morning 8 o'clock, every Friday, because my factory was producing food. So every Friday I would eat with them, lunchtime, and how the goodwill was created. Now all these businessmen, I'll tell you, more than your bank balance, you must create goodwill. Your goodwill balance must be much more than your bank balance. And because of that, now, again coming back to your question, now there was so many loans were there, but the bank, NatWest Bank was there. They came back to me, the regional director came to me, don't worry, how much money do you need? Normally they ask money in a time like this. The hypothecation of machineries were there from the people, from the financial institution. They said, no, you carry on as if nothing has happened and keep on paying. So this was...
There's a few bankers in the room I can see shaking their head like that. Yeah, I can see a couple sitting there.
In this climate, they won't give. I can understand.
We can carry on talking for hours, as you know, but I want to leave some time for Q&A as well.
Yes, of course.
I've got 2 more quick questions, actually. The first one, I wanted to ask you about selling your company. And in the sort of brief version of your story of how you sold the company eventually, and you came to terms with the fact that you actually let go of something that you created. I liken it to letting go of a child going to university or going off in life or something like that. How did you manage that?
First of all, to build that company, I have washed the floors, I have driven the forklifts, I have done the manual work, me and my family. And I think it was enough. It created a fantastic sort of a company which had a terrific name, made a lot of money. And I said to myself, if bus knocks me off on the street, I think my daughters, I have 2 daughters only, no sons. I said, they will not be able to handle this complicated business. So I got to create an umbrella. I got to have more professional company to take over, because this company will go places. And I don't mind revealing the figures also. At that point of time, my turnover was 50 million. Now, after they took over, it's 200 million. See the situation. So I was searching for a company, but first of all, this WT Foods, which was a public company, they bought me out. But they were too small, I bought them out. It was the reverse.
Lord Noon then bought the company back.
And then after a year, I could see that these WT Foods, the people who were there, I won't name them, they are not going to take this company forward. So I said, listen, I bought their entire shares. So again, it was my 100%. And then I was searching for a good company to take this. And I know, Shabir mentioned to you about Kerry Foods. It's a very formidable Kerry food company, Irish company. They have 120 factories all over the world. 120 all over the world. With a turnover of $5.6 billion. And 30,000 people working. They approached me and I said, I actually sold them. Now still I remain a chairman. They call me non-executive chairman, but they're treating me so well that they're almost an executive chairman. Because they take my advice to this business. And in their words, Noon Products, so many factories we have, but Noon Products is the jewel in the crown. These are their words, not mine. And so the respect is there, so I don't mind my daughter was working, both the daughters were working. I shifted them to my Royal Sweets business, which they are now working. One is, of course, now in Singapore. My eldest, Zenith, is looking after it. Well, I thought I'm going to retire, but I have no time now. I'm more busy after retirement. Why did I retire? But I enjoy it. The work is my life. After 9:30, 10 elephants cannot pull me back to keep me in the house. And if I don't come out, my wife will keep me out. Because I'm used to that. So anyway, I love my business. I love interacting. I've done many business for Shabir also. I know I'm not interviewing him. The epitome of integrity is also in this company.
Thank you. Mumbai, last question we have to ask you. I'm sure that we'll get some in the Q&A as well. If you had to give one bit of advice, and I've asked you this question a few times in different forums, and you've given different answers, so I'm waiting to hear which one you're going to give today. So if you had to give one bit of advice, and we've got quite a spread of audience here today, from students to entrepreneurs to professionals, what bit of advice are you going to pick for us?
I tell you, my advice to you, I rely more on integrity, values. Even if you are a shopkeeper, a small shopkeeper selling only the papers in the morning, it's very important to have an integrity. Without integrity, no matter what business you do, I don't care. And you must never allow your fire to be extinguished in your belly if you want to be an entrepreneur. Because entrepreneur works. He creates. And he creates not only money, for entrepreneur, it's not the money which is, of course money is important. But it is also important to create jobs. And last thing I want to tell you, and if you give me just 2 minutes on that you must keep certain portion of your income. Buy the best cars, buy the best houses, send your children to the best schools. No doubt, you earned it. Why not? But keep a small portion of money for the disadvantaged people. Extremely important. And I'm very proud to say that I'm more proud of my charitable hospitals and the schools I have built than my business, because that gives me a tremendous satisfaction. And when Shabir said about that I was stuck in the hotel in Taj in 2008, and my elder brother, he lives in Bombay, he was also there to see me, poor chap, he was also caught in that. And he asked me at about 12:30 when the huge bomb exploded, and he asked me that this is our 9/11. I said, no, this is not our 9/11. Nothing will happen to us, because we have wiped many tears from mother, father, boys, sisters, brothers, husbands. This is payback time. They are praying for us. And when we came down at 7 o'clock in the morning with the help of the fire brigade, in the lift, they broke the window and they took us to the lift. Literally, and it is recorded in the BBC and all, and NDTV local, the bullets were actually coming out here, and we could see the bullets. Nothing touched us. We all came out unscathed. So this is the power of your charity. And can I just lastly give you one? You have heard it, but I would like to tell, if you don't mind.
Please do.
I'll give you a story. It's not a story, but it's a true story, and I'll reveal the name also. A 9-year-old kid was actually playing in the Scottish farm, and he suddenly fell in a ditch, this shallow water, but he was stuck there because of the mud, and he screamed, and the farmer came out and took him out, washed him and sent him home. Next morning, an English gentleman, a very thorough English gentleman, carriage came and with that boy, and he wanted to thank his farmer who has saved the son. And he said, I will offer you some money. You're a farmer, you can use it. I don't want money. In the meantime, farmer's son, same age, 9-year-old boy, came out from another room. And this English gentleman said, listen, I want to educate this boy. He said, certainly, you can do that. And he educated him, sent him to the same school as his son, same university as his son. And you know who was that boy and who was the father? Father was no other than Lord Randolph Churchill. And son was no other than the greatest statesman we have born here in this country was Winston Churchill. And what happened to that boy who was educated? He was Alexander Fleming, one who actually invented the penicillin. And this Churchill, when in the youth days, when actually the penicillin was invented by Fleming, and he was sick, and only the penicillin injection saved his life. Mm-hmm. See how it turned back. So this is the power of charitable institute. This is the power of philanthropic work, what you do.
I can say certainly for myself and some of us who know Lord Noon a little bit better, that's a good point at which to stop you, because that depicts the gentleman himself as well, and he's not only talks the talk, but he walks the walk as well. I think we should give a round of applause to Lord Noon.
I'm thankful to Mosaic and particularly to you to invite me here. It's a wonderful audience here. Thank you.
I should just say that we have, before handing over to Harris for the Q&A, we have a number of Mosaic people in the room today. Our Vice Chairman is here, Yasmin Balji as well, and a number of the board members who are here as well. So on behalf of everyone, we're very grateful to you. Thank you very much.
What do you think is the challenges that young people face today?
In today's financial environment, I think they have a tough time. I get practically so many applications in a week about the jobs, and we can only do so much. So there is a very big challenge here. But the most important thing is, because I believe I did not go to university because my circumstances did not allow me. But I tell you, I can only tell our youngsters here that educate yourself. Whatever you want, to go and work in a cafeteria, wash the dishes, pay your fees if your parents cannot afford. Educate yourself. Without education, you are nothing. Today, education is this is the future currency of the world. Education is going to be a future currency of the world. Educate yourself. Yes, you need a job eventually, but if you have an education, you have a better chance of getting a job. So that is a very big challenge in this time, in this financial crisis time.
Do you believe in luck, or did you create your own luck?
I'll tell you about luck. The luck is Sobers, the great Gary Sobers, the great batsman of the West Indies. He said once to me that every time I practice more, my luck changes. You sum it up. The more you work hard, the more you apply your mind for whatever business you are doing, your luck will change. There is nothing like luck. And if you rely on luck only, I'm afraid you will grow old very soon.
What opportunities do you feel times of austerity bring for entrepreneurs? And what influence has your faith had on your
My
business
faith.
ethics and strategy?
Well, in a time of austerity, the opportunities, you have, as I said, you have to search for the opportunity. The opportunity does not walk at your home. You have to search for your business. You have to search what you want to do. You don't have to be industrialist. Start with something small and then work your way up. You will see the many businesses are actually built on a small level. I built my business, Noon Products, on a 5,500 square feet. I worked my way up, and now, mashallah, we have about 400,000 square feet. So you have to work your way up. There is no formula for that. But again, I come back to integrities and values. Focus yourself. Faith has played a very big role in because my mother was a very spiritual person. I did not have the opportunity to learn anything from my father, but my mother was a very wise woman. As I told you, that she asked me not to take a job. I mean, this was something I don't believe it that she told me this, because how did she know that I will, to tell me this sort of a thing and going to a strange country? I could have taken a job in a bank and counted the notes. But she said, no, don't accept that. Just sell the ties on your hand and be an entrepreneur. So you decide what you want. There's nothing wrong in working. My circumstances were different. My mother's values were different. But I still am, and I'm very happy to say that I'm still a very spiritual person. Spirituality is very important to me. When my factory burned down, my children actually were taken to the Gurudwara, to Mandir, to Masjid every Sunday. Then my employees were praying for me because I had created that goodwill with them.
You mentioned that your morals and sticking to them were important to you, but have you found that sticking to your morals has been difficult at some times, or has it been an incentive to kind of drive you forward in business or what you're going into?
I would rather fail with honor than succeed with deceit. So the morality is very important. You talked about moral, right? Yes. Morality is very important. Never succumb the temptation of doing something in a shortcuts. When I remember when I had an opportunity to address a very big congregation in a hotel, there were about 2,000 people. My first sentence was, never take the shortcuts. And particularly in a food business like mine, there is so much temptation to take the shortcuts and make more money. You succumb to that, you are dead.
Many years ago now, you started your business. If you were looking back on yourself and giving advice to one of your children now, what were the pitfalls that you would tell them to avoid to make sure that they actually maintained their integrity and grew a successful business?
I would say the same thing as I'm telling you. And I'll give you one example, and I don't mind sharing that with you. My younger brother was with me in the business, and my daughter Zeenat was with me in the business. My Zeenat actually said something to my brother, and my brother was very upset. So I sent my daughter home. I said, I'll take my brother's side, not yours, because you were rude to him. And she went home. Next day she came crying. I said, you don't have to cry in front of me. Go and talk to your uncle. Apologize. And since that day, they are working very well. So discipline is also very important. And employers sometimes feel that that is their birthright to have a loyalty from their employees. It has a two-way traffic. Remember that. Even if you are employing one person. Two-way traffic. I am very proud to say that today we have in a plant, the father is also working, the son is also working, the daughter-in-law is also working with us. So it's a whole family. And we have treated them like a family.
We've obviously got loads of budding entrepreneurs. What advice would you give to them when the banks are not really lending? How can they gain access to funds?
As we all know, we are going through whole world is going through a tough time. Tough time does not last long, tough people do. Remember that. You have to be brave. And whatever, if you are in a business, make sure that unnecessary expenses to be cut. Unnecessary expense. Tighten your own belt first before you tell anybody else. This time will go away. It has come many times. In the 80s also I have seen when the interest rate jumped to 15%, 20% during John Major's time. But the tough time does not last long. I'm an optimist as far as business is concerned. I'm an optimist. Of course, in our business the margins are very small. What margin I used to have, it's laughable if I see it now. But that actually sharpened my mind. We have to produce whatever we are producing in an economical way. We have to buy cleverly, and we have to have the product which is a value for money. Today, everyone is looking for a value for money. So we have to just bear it.
You've got two daughters. We're here with Mosaic today. What advice would you give to women here today who might be struggling in trying to encourage their fathers or their parents to actually allow them to actually open their own businesses and their own ideas?
Well, I'm not from a dragon's den, so I can say that the first opportunity you have a business. First, you train your own, but before taking them into your own business, I sent both the daughters outside. My eldest daughter went to Taj Mahal Hotel in Bombay from chopping of the onions, right? And then she graduated herself as a food and beverage manager of one of the finest 5-star hotel in Bangalore, Taj Hotel. Then I got her here because she has seen everything. Similarly, my younger daughter, I put her because she wanted to be an actress. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? And she did some shows as well in Bombay also on a theatre. But then, of course, she eventually, I said, when you're tired, come and do the chicken tikka masala here. But she went first to, I put her in a Cox and Kings travel agency. She went around the world. Around the world, she saw everything and then she came and joined me. So I think it's the first opportunity, in my opinion, should be given to your own children. Because you have built a business, why not? Why not? And then, of course, you have to be, discipline has to come. Now, my two daughters, I remember in Noor Products days, that my two daughters, if anyone wants to see me, they would go to my secretary first, take the time and come to me. Because I'm not a father in the office. I'm the boss. So, and they were paid exactly what their level of workers were, officers were paid. But that is discipline. But if you give them a posh cars and everything, then it's difficult to then control it later on.